Hi, and welcome to the second episode of the Silver Lining series, where we'll discuss the power of the breath and the positive impact it can have on our communication. Fun fact, by the law of averages, you will take 670 million breaths in your lifetime, which is crazy to think about considering we don't have to think about it. Our autonomic nervous system, which is also something we don't have to think about, regulates our bodily functions, like our heart beating, digesting our food, and our pupils adjusting to different lighting. These regulatory functions aren't usually a topic of conversation. However, breathing is something that we have all recently become hyper aware of. Not only have we come to understand that COVID-19 affects our ability to breathe, but now we're constantly being reminded of our breath behind our masks. Now, only you are able to smell the garlic bread you had for lunch and spare everyone else you talk to. But I think the conversation around breathing should be a little bit different, have a different tone. Breathing is our superpower. Stick with me here. Our autonomic nervous system that controls our breathing is also the main controller of our fight or flight response, which we are hyper aware of these days because our stress levels are out of control. When we're in fight or flight mode, our body responds as if we're being chased by a tiger and running for our lives. But actually, we're just running from things like looming deadlines or increased responsibilities or trying to balance work while keeping up with your kids' school being canceled every other day. Those are our tigers, and they're not going anywhere. This running is constantly triggering an avalanche of stress hormones in our bodies, which produces physiological changes where our heart starts pounding, our muscle tension increases, all of the sudden we're sweating, and our breathing becomes fast and shallow. Our breathing pattern is one of the first places our tension, stress, or anxiety manifests. When we're anxious, our respiration shifts towards faster and more shallow breaths, usually associated with fear and panic. But we have the power to change that. Of all the physical stress reactions, the one that we can change most readily is our breath. When we choose to breathe in the opposite way to the stress response, slow and deep instead of fast and shallow, we begin to reduce the impact that stress has on our physiology. It's like a reset switch or a superpower. So what does this really mean? Diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing has become sort of a buzzword as of late, especially as it relates to stress. Diaphragmatic breathing is defined as an efficient, integrative mind-body technique for dealing with stress. Simply put, when you inhale, your belly expands, and when you exhale, your belly contracts. This allows for our breathing to become longer and slower. When you take a deep breath, you calm your nerves, relax your body, and give it oxygen. Breathing like this can transform your relationship with fear, stress, and anxiety. Again, a superpower. Breathing is our superpower not only because we can change our own physiological stress responses, but it is also one of the most critical tools in impactful communication. For example, when lawyers give their closing argument, they pause for suspense or added inflection.
Radical social change. When I was in law school, there was no women's bathroom.
Or when a teacher stands at the front of the classroom waiting for students to be quiet. It works. And there's a lot of research now backing its validity and impact. Karen Dwyer, a researcher and professor out of the University of Nebraska, who studies speech anxiety and communication apprehension, found that by practicing as few as 10 deep belly breaths for 3 to 5 minutes at a time, a person can achieve moderate relaxation and reduce the physiological responses to anxiety and panic. Another study out of Beijing Normal University in China discusses how a one-day breathing exercise was found to relieve the emotional exhaustion and depersonalization induced by job burnout. An automatic function of our body has the power to positively impact exhaustion, anxiety, stress, burnout, and interpersonal communication. Intentional breathing helps us to approach life from a place of zen and calm. Deep breathing is meditation for people who can't meditate. It is a superpower not only because we can take our own cells from a state of fight or flight to a state of rest and digest, but it can also help to improve our communication skills. Too often are we reacting instead of responding. We're not taking the time to process what is being said to us or to be intentional with our words in our responses. We have to give people the benefit of the doubt, but we also need to recognize that we only have control over our own reactions. If superheroes never used their powers, they would never be able to save the world. If we don't use our superpower, we give our power away to stress. So how do we take that power back? We breathe. Take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. It resets our system, it calms our nerves, and decreases our stress. It allows us to be more intentional with our delivery of information. It can be the difference in a negative encounter with a coworker or a positive one. It can allow us to change our attitude or perspective, or at the very least, find a moment to pause. And if you don't believe me, the Duke University School of Medicine also conducted a study to see if a mind-body intervention in the workplace could improve stress and sleep quality. And the results showed that those who participated in the mind-body intervention, which also included breathing techniques, significantly improved their stress and quality of sleep after only 12 weeks. Pretty cool. And if all of this doesn't convince you, I encourage you to try. Take a few seconds at your desk, in the hall, in your car, and inhale and watch your belly rise, and exhale and watch your belly fall. Notice how afterwards your shoulders drop away from your ears, your muscles relax, your heart rate slows. Superpower. Now try it again after the initial shock that it actually worked wears off. So, the silver lining is that in a world where we can feel so out of control, you have the superpower to breathe, to inhale calm and exhale stress.